record button. And I'm going to say welcome to our introduction to FirstClass 16. We'll be talking about what's new in FirstClass. I think you all have caught on that I'm Greg Kalust. I'm the president and founder of Canon Communications. We've been FirstClass partner, channel partner, resellers, hosting partners since 1995. We are, as far as I can tell, we've been around in the reseller business at this point longer than anybody else that's still at it. A couple of possible exceptions, but I think we've been around longer than everybody. There is a lot that's new in FirstClass 16, and I'm excited to be showing you some of that. Just as a repeat, there's a question area on the screen, and if you have a question, you can either type it in there, or if you want me to unmute you so that we can talk about it, feel free to do that. There's nobody in here but me as far as on the management of the webinar side, so I'll do my best to keep my eye on the questions area. But I can't guarantee that. But I can guarantee that I will follow up after the fact, and I'll run through and see what's what. So, having said all of that, let's get on with the presentation. I've got a keynote presentation put together just to help me keep track of things and to make sure I don't forget to mention something that I wanted to mention. And I also will spend some time in a live view of the FirstClass Web Services, the new web interface. It's was released as part of version 12, and it's been consistently upgraded and improved. And some of the things that I'll be showing you aren't actually available today, but they're in 16.1, which is the service pack that should be released fairly soon now. I think I just got a hold of the beta of the server yesterday. So having said beta, I will have to point out that there are some things that I know already don't work completely, but they're worth talking about. And there are some things that worked last time I looked, but might not necessarily do it, because I will be connecting in to beta servers with beta front end. So kind of be patient with that. But the version that we're looking at now seems to be fairly stable. So having said that, let's see if we can get started here. So first of all, what's not new in FirstClass? I want to talk about what's new in FirstClass, but I've been having some conversations with folks lately who have led me to believe that there's some anxiety about, what happens when we upgrade. Do things go away, or do things stop working the way that they always have done? So I want to relieve some of that anxiety a little bit. So first of all, in FirstClass 16.1, or what's released is version 16. And I want to point out that version 16 is really 12.2. The folks at OpenText decided earlier this year that they wanted to rebrand all of their products and all of their version numbers to include the number 16, because it's 2016 now. Of course, that makes no sense at all once it gets to be 2017. But it wasn't my idea, so that's the way it goes. So 16 is really 12.2. So if your server's already at 12.1, 16 is really just a service pack upgrade. There are some new features in it, but for the most part, it's a service pack upgrade. And the same with the upcoming 16.1. It's a service pack upgrade, but it also does include some new features. But everything that you're used to is already in there, and for the most part works the same way. So you've got your email, your contacts, your conferences, calendars, and forms. All of those things are still in there, and all of those things still work. If you've got RAD applications, or what was rebranded a few years ago, FCAS applications, those things should still work. And I say should because some of them were made by third parties, or perhaps by you yourselves, and there's no guarantee that those will still work after the upgrade. But if you do an upgrade onto a side machine, so to speak, and test it against that, that's probably a good idea if your FCAS apps are mission critical. If your FirstClass system is being hosted by Canon Communications. We'll work with you to pre-test any mission critical apps that you let us know about in advance, just to make sure that things continue to work. It's still the case that everything in FirstClass is essentially in one window. You can open up more than one window if you want to open your mailbox. In the client, if you want to open your mailbox in a separate window, you can continue to do that. But the reason that I pointed out that it's basically in one window or one app is that many of the other products that are out there in the world now, you have to use different apps for different things, and FirstClass still has it all in one place. It's still kind of a very good Swiss Army knife. And there's one other thing that's not new. If you don't move away from FirstClass, or if you do simply do an upgrade, no training or data migration is needed. And I'll make clear why I pointed that out a little while ago. Just going to do a quick check before I change slides here to see whether there's any questions. So I see a question from Nate. Yeah, that's a good question. Nate's question, I think you can all see everybody's questions, but Nate's question is, since this isn't going to be out till 2017, have they thought about calling it 17 instead? And it is out, Nate. FirstClass 16 was released this summer. I think it was June or July. It was really 12.2, but they rebranded it on the way by. So it is FirstClass 16. I'm not a fan of ever since Windows 95, I'm not a fan of naming things by their calendar dates. But it would have been better at 17. I hope that they're not going to rebrand it every year. I think that would be strange, but that's the way that goes anyway. So many of the features are improved. There are some things that are in 16 that might have actually even been in 12.1. I can't remember when things changed. But one is a result of many requests that if you receive an email from somebody in the outside world, the received email addresses are added to your contacts automatically without you necessarily having to do anything. There is a bit of fuzziness in how it's implemented, and it is an option so that you can turn that off if you want. I don't remember how to do it, so if you're going to ask me how to do that, I'd have to go look it up. And feel free to ask me questions that I might not know the answer to, and I will do my best to track those down and let everybody know. Something that's new in 12.1 and improved in 16 is assignable tasks. So using the client, the standard desktop client, or the FCWS, the FirstClass Web Services, or the Go client, the mobile clients for iOS, Android, and Windows Phone. You can create a task in your calendar and then assign it to someone, and that will be trackable, so that when they get the assignment, they can acknowledge it, and you can see the progress as it's entered along the way. So it's a pretty good basic project management tool that's built into the FirstClass system now, which I have not used thoroughly, mostly because nobody ever does what I ask them to do anyway. So, but I will be working with that as time goes on here because I think it's a good idea to be able to keep track of things. I think I mentioned emailing to groups is now a possibility. In 12.1, the administrator could create user groups, could create mail lists based on user groups. And in 16, the administrator could distribute access to that. In 16.1, I haven't seen it yet, but I'm pretty sure that regular people with permission can email to a user group. So if you've got a user group that's administrative staff or all teachers or fifth grade teachers or something like that, without maintaining a mailing list, folks will be able to mail directly to that group by name. I haven't worked with it a lot, so I don't remember right off the top of my head how to set one up in during the course of a webinar where I've got a lot to do, and I don't want to do it wrong. I'll do that if time allows and somebody wants to see it. But I may simply send out some instructions when they become available. One thing that I'm happy about, because of interoperability reasons, is that in version 16 you can overlay a Google Calendar, and this works in FCWS and in the Go client. It does not work in the desktop client, as far as I can tell, but we can overlay a Google Calendar on top of a FirstClass calendar in the same way we've been able to do punch-through calendars in the client for some time. And that's been in there since version 16. And version 16.1, I started playing with this yesterday. In version 16.1, they've actually made it bi-directional. So I can create an event in the FirstClass calendar and have it show up in the Google Calendar. And the Google Calendar, I can create an event and have that show up in the FirstClass calendar. And that can be edited on either side. It doesn't seem to be 200% functional yet, but I should be able to basically give you a quick look at it before we're done today to give you a sense of how that's going to work. That's pretty good. Something that's way more important to me is that I can now synchronize my FirstClass calendar with my Mac calendar, which and I presume that you can synchronize with a calendar in Outlook as well, or a Windows calendar. So I'm able to put an event in my FirstClass calendar and see it on my Mac, as well as see it on my several iOS devices. And this is not using the FirstClass sync services. It uses CalDAV, so it's bi-directional without having to run another piece of software in the background somewhere. So I see that Barbara's asked a question about, if we're hosting your FirstClass system, when can we hope to get it upgraded? And I've been asking the tech guys about that, and we're hoping to be able to do that starting right away by request. We don't want to. We host about 100 servers, and 16.1 is really a service pack for 16. Our habit has always been we're going to wait until a service pack is out. That service pack is now out. So we're right now the guys in the tech room are making sure that that all the environments are correct, that the operating systems are correct, that there's enough memory, that there's enough drive space for additional things that happen, and so on. So I think I can predict that sometime within the next week or so we're able to, and then we can start to schedule with folks as you want it. We did delay upgrading folks to 12 until 12.1 was out, and we've delayed upgrading folks to 16 until the 16.1 was out, because they always release things and then something's broken, and if your server isn't currently broken, we'd rather do that than give you access to features that don't work quite right yet anyway. But we will be doing those upgrades over the next few weeks. And who's going to get it? Who's going to get them first is people who send me an email and say, "Can we go next?" And I'll respond to that. The tech guys, as much as I love them and as hard as they work, their tech guys their response, like your tech guys, is always, "Do I have to?" So if I say yes, then they will. So there's that. Any other questions before I change slides here? I'm going to take that as a no. So let's see what we got. So let's take a quick look at the new web interface, and this has improved since the first time I talked about it a couple of years ago. It's improved quite a bit, and with 16.1, I think I can say for the first time that just about all the features of the FirstClass client are now available to you in FirstClass web services with a regular web browser, and there may be some exceptions. So, if you've got I don't know, Safari version 8 or something like that, it's not going to work. But recently updated web browsers will work. It seems as though Chrome does everything we ask it to. I still prefer Firefox, and I've found that Firefox does everything that I want it to. And Safari seems to do just about everything I want it to. I.e., I got my doubts. But just about everything you can do with the FirstClass client, mail rules, everything else are available to you in First Class Web Services 16.1. 16.0, not quite yet, but 16.1, I'm going to say yes. For those of you who aren't all that familiar with the new web interface, and I suspect that that's the case for some, or if not many of you, that I'm going to give you a quick look at what the new web interface looks like, and show you a couple of things that you might not be aware of that are already in there or that have been improved by 16.0 and will be improved more in 16.1. So I forget what my next slide is. So okay, so I'm going to go in and show you the interface live. But one of the things that I didn't want to take a chance on live was something that most of you didn't know was in there anyway, and that FirstClass 16 includes peer-to-peer video chat in the chat window. And because I figured that probably wouldn't work during a demo, I did a chat with Denise on our office this morning. So before I go off and take a look at the web browser, since we're looking at this anyway, I'll give you a look at this. Whoops. Wait a minute. Clicked on too many things here. So this should be playing there. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so those of you who have been had any interactions with Canon over the last few years have had some interaction with Denise. That's Denise, our office manager. She works from home most of the time, and we're able to visit with each other with if we need to see each other, we're able to visit with each other with the video chat. And I think that it's a pretty good tool. It's a peer-to-peer, so it's actually handled by the web browser, not by the FirstClass server. So you don't have to worry about your bandwidth or any of that. There's the button on the chat that initiates it, basically gives a reference URL to the two browsers, and then they connect directly to each other. So some browsers will work better than others. What you just saw was recorded. I was using Firefox, and Denise was using Chrome. We're both using Macs. She's at her home office. I'm in my home office. So that seemed to work out pretty well. So let's take assuming I can, let's see if I can, all right, I know what I got to do. Okay. Let's take a look at this FirstClass web interface and see what it looks like. So I'm logging into my own personal account. So feel free to avoid reading my email if there's something interesting over there. You know, I do get some interesting email. And if there's something that looks like a complaint, don't tell me about it. I don't want to know. So this is the new FCWS. It's new in the sense that it was released with version 12 a couple of years ago. Many of you I know have used it somewhat. I don't know anybody that uses it extensively, and I think that may be because in its early release days it was a little bit wobbly. But I use it all the time, and if you go to FirstClass Online these days, that's the only reasonable way to go to FirstClass Online to check in and see what's going on in the world of FirstClass or get support or whatever it is. So I think that if you ever go to FirstClass Online, you've seen it in action. It's much better than it used to be. It's much more stable. And in FirstClass 16.1, it has some handy new capabilities that you're going to be glad to know about, I think. So let me just give everybody a quick tour. I know that probably most of you have actually seen this more than once, but I'll give you a quick tour so that you get a sense of it. Um, across the top, there's a couple of things. Obviously, there's a logo. This is brandable, so that this can be replaced by your logo. It doesn't have to say OpenText FirstClass on it. It will pick up the site name in the middle. It'll pick up the site name from your FirstClass server. And here's something that you might not have known, which is if you hover your cursor over that, it'll pop open information about the version of the server and the FirstClass web services that's running on the system. And it also will tell any user what their disk space quota is and how much disk space they have left. If you come to host with Canaan, or if you're already hosted with Canaan, I just want you to know that unless you have a reason to ask us to, we don't care too much about disk space usage. So we don't enforce on our own behalf disk space limitations. As I say, you can if you want to for your own organization, and we'll keep those in place. But we don't care. Disk space is cheap. It used to be very expensive, but it's not anymore. Over on the right-hand side, you get your name in case you forget who you are. You get your profile picture. You get a mini blog in which you can update folks. So anybody that's following you gets to see what your mini blog has to say. And it comes with a blog, not just a mini blog, but a real blog, so that you can post things to your blog. And they may or may not read correctly, so I'm not going to hang around there too long. So the blog that's in here is a private blog. It's accessible by anyone who has permission on your server to see you online. It's not a public blog, so you can use it to say things that you wouldn't necessarily want to say out in public, or that your organization wouldn't want you to say out in public. Schools that we work with that use it, the teachers have a blog that can be read by their students. Administrators have a blog that can be read by everybody on the system, and it, generally speaking, just kind of works. Do a quick question check. Nope, no new questions. So there's that. Then there's your on the left-hand side, you've got your mailbox, a link to your calendar, which I'm going to dip into here in a second. Mailbox and calendar work the same way as they have done in the client. They work the same way as they have done in the web interface for the last couple of years, with an exception in the calendar that I'll show you in just a minute. The middle section here is conferences, calendars, folders, communities, that sort of thing. And it has one major difference over the FirstClass client, which is this middle section is everything that you can see. But to keep your desktop from getting too cluttered up, you can move things up into this top level and then back down again if you want to do that. So if there's something that you want to make sure that you keep track of, such as we have this Help Me conference that we use for to do end user support for select hosted customers. They send a message to Help Me, and those of us who are involved in providing that support have access to that. It's a conference with an email address, so we have access to that pretty quick. So you can, if there's something that you want to pay attention to, you can drag it up into that top section where you can pay attention to it. The bottom section is external applications, and 3 of these are broken. So I'm going to take a chance on this one. This one was all right. So this one will still work. So just to give you an idea that if you want to give access to things outside of your system, it's possible to, this one's broken too. It's possible to, one of the reasons that it's broken is that OpenText moved their support site behind the OpenText parent site. And so things like Stuart Lynch's FirstClass tutorials, which are a great resource, I haven't figured out yet how to display those in this external application. So when I do, I'll let you know about that. but you can have access to things like I think this one actually sort of works. The Google Drive. So if you've got things stored on your Google Drive and you'd like to get access to it through your FirstClass window, you can do that. As far as I know, in its current iteration, this is not bi-directional, so I can get things from the Google Drive, or I can look at things that are stored in my Google Drive, but it's not live and bi-directional, although it may be possible to make it work that way. FirstClass now in FirstClass 16 supports OAuth. So if you want to write an external app that supports OAuth, you can go ahead and do that. And that's the most I can tell you about that one off the top of my head, given time constraints. Over on the right-hand side, we've got things that have been there for a while. We've got my people. So if there are people you're following, and they post something to their status or their mini blog here, that shows up. If you can get people to upgrade that on a regular basis, please let me know how you did it. We have chats where we can invite people into a chat, and it's text chat. It lingers. It's not like the FirstClass client chat that's not there anymore once you go away. So it lingers. So if there's a message, you can refer back to it. And it's pretty clean and easy. This works between people who are using the client and people who are using FC web services also, so you can communicate with anybody who's on your system right now. Then there are things like updates where things that get posted that you've asked to follow, or subscriptions or invitations that you've been invited to. You can find all those things in that update section. What's on the right-hand side here is what I refer to in the slides. That seems to be, wait a minute. I was going to say that seems to be a bit buggish, so we'll keep that one. We'll keep the chats up on top of my people here for the time being, so you're not too excited about why that didn't work. Quick check for questions. No questions. You folks really have no questions? Feel free, and I'll do my best to check in and answer them from time to time. I want to talk first about something that's new in calendars, and then we can talk about some new containers that are here. So this is the FirstClass calendar. This is my personal calendar through the web services. It includes these things that are in different colors, or punch-through calendars. So I've got in the office building, there are some conference rooms that other people schedule. So those things that are in different colors come from different calendars, the same way they do in the client. One of the things that's different here is that I can show a Google Calendar. So things that are in my Google Calendar show up here. So here's an event edited in Google. It's just playing around so that you can see how it looks. That's actually part of my Google Calendar. And if I create an event, I'm sure many of you in your organizations, especially in schools, do have a Google Calendar. And it would be handy for interoperability if you could see both. So here's my Google Calendar, and I've subscribed my Google Calendar to this calendar. And something that I try to have in my calendar every day is take a deep breath. And with any luck, by the time I get back over to FirstClass, we see that take a deep breath has appeared in that calendar because the external integration services that's part of the FirstClass 16 package is talking directly to a calendar that I subscribe to through the FirstClass interface. I put in the credentials for my Google Calendar. So you can do that with group calendars. So if you've got an all-school calendar or an all-company calendar, you can overlay that on top of individual calendars, as well as I think on top of group calendars, although I've never actually tried that. So stay tuned, and I'll let you know how that works out. This was yesterday when I tried it out, was bi-directional, so that if I open up this event here in FirstClass. I can edit it. I say it worked yesterday because and I say it that way because when I was working on it this morning, it didn't. But we'll see. So with any luck, when I save this, anybody want to make any side bets on whether this is back there when we get there? Which the note that I just made yesterday would have appeared here in the description, and it didn't yet. So it may be that it'll show up later, but it hasn't yet. But in any case, we can get something. You can see clearly that we can get something from the Google Calendar into the FirstClass calendar, and that may be handy in organizations that have both FirstClass systems and a Google domain. I believe that it's going to be made to work all with 365, but I don't have a way to test that yet. So, but I believe in 16.1, it's bidirectional calendars with 365 as well. I mentioned earlier that my calendar on my Mac will display things that show up in my FirstClass calendar, but I think not all the way down through from the Google Calendar. But I've got my event that I created in the FirstClass calendar has showed up in my Mac calendar, and I can create with any luck. I can create an event here and put it. Yeah, that should work. How do I save it? Hold on. Okay, we got it. And with any luck, that will show up into the FCWS calendar sometime soon. I think that's likely to take a minute or two, but take my word for that. Okay, still no questions. So I'm assuming that everybody's still there. Could somebody just type in a quick question just so I can be sure that everybody really is still there? Barbara, could you just type something in the question area, please, just so to give me some confidence that something's good happening? Or not? Barbara, I'm going to unmute you. Could you say hello just so I started hearing a humming in my ear, so I just wondered if, and no question, so I wondered if people were still there. So are you there, Barbara?
Yes, I am.
Okay, excellent. I can hear you. So thank you. I'm gonna unmute you now just because it tends to be feedback and whatnot, but I just
Right. I did post another question which you didn't see.
Oh, okay. I'll go back and check that. Thanks.
About requesting an upgrade.
Oh, I did see that. Didn't I respond to that?
No. I guess it was similar to my first one. When can we help? But this how I've been requesting an upgrade ever since we went on to you in April of 2015. And 12.1 was already out at that point, and they said, they've been, I don't know, I don't know the magic formula to get them to upgrade us.
Okay, now you know it. It's say it to me in public, and I'll do it.
Okay, I will send you a personal email.
Okay, thanks, and we'll take care of that. You want to do it over the school holiday?
That sounds great.
Okay, so I'll tell the guys.
I'll email you.
I'll tell the guys that we're going to do it over the school holiday.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so apparently we're still live and it's still working, so that's good news. So let's go back and take a look at we got about 20 minutes left here, so let's go back and take a look at one or two other things that I wanted to talk to you about. One is I'm not sure whether you're all familiar with the difference in communities and conferences. So I'll give you a quick look. So in the communities window, the as opposed to a conference window. They're essentially the same thing, but a community is pre-built to have some more things in it. So there's a feed where we can post new messages, and the messages will be threaded in the same way that they are in the client. There's a little bit difference in the threading, but you can see that there's a threaded message. There's also a specific area to upload files into, and there's one particular thing I want to show you about this because there's a good chance that you haven't seen it yet. And the other is that there's a wiki, and we can create wiki pages which are editable by anybody who has permission to edit things in this community. So the answer to can people work on a document at the same time, there's two answers to that in 16.1. One is in the wiki, yes. It's not real-time editing. Only one person can edit the document at the same time. And if somebody else tries to edit it, it'll be locked during that edit. So it's not the same thing as Google Docs where you can work on the same document at the same time. But it is, you can work it on the same document. And FirstClass will keep track of your versions. The same thing is the case with files. So in this, what I'm about to show you works with files that are WebDAV enabled. So Mac Pages, Microsoft Excel, those things are WebDAV enabled so that they are, you can edit them and save them back. And this is the FirstClass's solution to the question of, in the FirstClass client, you open up a Word document. If you want to make changes to it, you have to save those changes locally and then re-upload them. With this, using WebDAV, that's not what I want to do. I just wanted to click on it once. Let's see. There we go. We get a menu here, and the menu includes WebDAV URL. So that automatically puts in the URL to where this file is located. And I copy that, and I come over here to Excel. And once again, this worked yesterday, so we'll be happy if it works today. And in Excel, and this is Excel on a Mac, which isn't necessarily the way that it looks on Windows, but it works the same way. It just doesn't look the same way on Windows. So on the Mac, I go to File, Open URL, paste that URL in. Have to log in once because Excel wants to know who I am. And with any luck, so it's downloading the file. It should be opening the file. There's a file that's open, and you can see on the FirstClass window that when I downloaded that a lock appeared. So that file is now locked, so nobody else, people can download it, but they can't edit it. But if I come back over here to Excel and edit this, and then hit save, you might have been able to hear that chime noise. And this is now, yeah, okay, go away. Click on it over here. Now we're up to version 3 on this file, so it tracks versions. Version 2 is currently locked. Version 3 was just uploaded. And as soon as I go to Excel and close that file, I have no idea what that dialog box is on the window. That wasn't there a minute ago. Go away. Oh, good. I love doing live demos. In theory, when that file is closed, when that Excel file is closed, this padlock icon will be open for editing. I think what's happening here is that something wants to upgrade itself automatically, and I wouldn't let it. So that file now should be unlocked for editing anytime now. or I can unlock it myself. So that's a way that people can collaborate together on documents that they're trying to get, where they're trying to get work done in ways that it's difficult to do in other systems. But that works really well here. The last thing that I want to go out of my way to show you here, and there are several other newish things that I'll talk about, but the last thing that I want to just give you a quick look at in our last 15 minutes here is there is, in addition to being able to assign tasks in a calendar, 16.1 includes a new container type through FCWS. I'm sorry, through FCWS. There's a new container type here, which is a task container that allows me to create an item, assign it to somebody, tell it when it's supposed to start, et cetera, including notes at the bottom of the window and so on. So there's a full editor here, so I can put full details at the bottom. I can attach files to it and so on. And when I'm done, that will appear in this container that I set up on the desktop of the user that this was assigned to. And when they open it up, they can change the state, so they can say it's acknowledged or in process or completed or whatever. And that then appears in the table view so that you can track the progress of an ongoing project pretty much in real time using this container. So this is some project management that's been built into 16.1 that I think is going to turn out to be very, very useful in lots of different organizations. So that's kind of the quick tour of 16 and 16.1. Does anybody have any questions specifically about that before I go back and see what else I've got in my presentation? Okay, one of the things that's tricky here is that GoToWebinar doesn't tell me when somebody's actually typing in a question. They only show me when a question shows up. So while we're waiting to see whether a question shows up, let's go back and see what else I might have had to say in the slideshow here. CalDAV I just talked about. I think that's good. I'm glad I didn't forget that. So that we can do bidirectional interoperability. And again, the 16.1 with the Google Calendar where it talks back and forth, that's still in beta. So I'm impressed that it even works as well as it does. But sometime in the very near future, you'll be able to work back and forth with Google Calendars, 365 calendars, and some other types. And that's kind of right out of the box. The new mobile client, I wanted to talk about that a little bit. There was some, when FirstClass went to FirstClass 12.1 and then 16, there were some issues with the old mobile client, and there was some kerfuffle about that. There was black screens and so on. And the folks at FirstClass said, well, we want you to use Go. We don't want you to use that mobile client. But so many people in the FirstClass community responded that they like including me, I like the iOS client. I still use that more than anything else when I'm on a device because it's much faster. What they did was they went back in and fixed it, and they are actually continuing to upgrade that old iOS client. The reason that they went away from it was that they couldn't make that similar functionality work on Android for various reasons. So what they've done is they built something that they call FirstClass Go. There's an iOS FirstClass Go app, there's an Android Go app, and there's a Windows Phone Go app. And they work in exactly the same way as the web services works and looks. So everything that you can do in FirstClass web services, you can now do on a mobile device using the Go app. And in 16.1, that's very, very close to being everything that you can do with the FirstClass client on a desktop machine. So their convergence of their different interfaces is moving along very well. So other things, and this was a list that I just dropped out. I'll post on our website. I'll post the full product roadmap for the 16.1. I'll post that on our website sometime in the next day or two, and I'll send you out all a notice that I've done it. But I just grabbed a bunch of things off the FirstClass roadmap and posted it in here. A couple things I didn't talk about or try to show you live today because I haven't figured out how to make them go yet. Is that you can easily see all the user groups that are marked for archiving, which you couldn't do before. You could you knew people were being archived, but you couldn't really easily tell who all everybody was. And now the administrators will be able to see that. You'll be able to display your password policies for the client and the FCWS to their users. So when they're setting up a new password, they're not going to have to stumble around trying to figure out what fits your policies and what doesn't. And several other things that are on the roadmap that I'll give you a good look at on our website. Just a quick pitch for FirstClass hosting. If you're not already there, aside from this question of when are you going to upgrade our server, to the answer to which is very soon now. As soon as you ask us now, I've gotten a handle on that a lot better. But I think those of you who are hosted will agree that we're doing a pretty good job managing your servers in the cloud. You get to retain full admin rights. Doesn't take very long to make a move over, and the total cost of ownership we believe we can prove is quite a bit less. So I won't pitch that too hard because most of you are already in that environment anyway. If you are planning to leave on FirstClass, and I hate to bring this up because I don't want to encourage anybody to leave FirstClass or to leave our hosted environment, but that does happen. If you are going to go, please let us know as soon as you can so that we can plan for that, not only in terms of resources, but we can talk with you in advance about how to make it as seamless as possible for your users. Sometimes we find out after the fact that somebody's not using FirstClass anymore, and that's a surprise to us, and there may be some things that we can do to make it easy on you, including we can migrate mailboxes from FirstClass to Google Mail, to other mail server types, as well as Microsoft. So we can help you with that migration, but it's easier for everybody if you let us know as soon as you know. And also, I personally like to have an opportunity to make the case if that's an option. Many times I'll get a message from a tech director of an organization saying, it's not my fault, it wasn't my idea, but we're being forced to move away from FirstClass. I wouldn't mind having a chance to come and talk with your decision makers and make a pitch there if there's a pitch available. Also, we've partnered up, and I've said this in a couple of different emails, we've partnered up with a company called iNet Communications, and now anywhere in the country we can offer fiber internet access for your fiber. We can offer that bandwidth probably for less money than what you're paying now, because we have wholesale relationships with all the major carriers. We can offer you hosted voice over IP. If you're thinking about changing your phone system over, we can offer a hosted voice over IP that works extremely well. We're using it here at Canaan, and also we can make that hosted voice over IP work with FirstClass voice services, what we used to call FirstClass Unified Communications. We can also do that if you're hosting your own. So we're talking with a couple of organizations now about adding in the FirstClass voice services. SIP trunking is a way to replace copper voice lines with voice over IP voice lines, whether you're using our hosted system or your PBX. And we could offer that inexpensively, partially because a PRI has got X number of channels, and that's how many you get, regardless of how many you need. But with SIP trunking, we can identify one at a time. And the internet access is all of these things are E-rate eligible if you're in a school. Voice services is being phased out, but one of the things that we can do is we can bundle voice things in with internet access or redundant internet access, so that we can mitigate the pricing based on the parts of that that are E-rate eligible. And one last thing, because I think it's coming up on time for us to go, subject to, I've got a few minutes to answer questions. We've just gone live last week with our new website. I'm still in the process of filling in all of the content, but the structure is there, and it seems to be working pretty well. We built it all in FirstClass using FirstMagic 3.0. You may not all be familiar with FirstMagic, but there are a couple of different products. RWD, which we use and support. Rapid Web Designer is a product that works very well. Several of you that are on the call today use RWD. There's another product called FirstMagic that we decided we'd give a try. We've been very happy with it. Runar Thorvaldsen, who built it, and I worked remotely together building our website. Didn't take very long at all. And one of the advantages to FirstMagic is that we maintain the website completely with a web browser. I don't have to have forms or upgrade my client or any of that. It's manageable completely with a web browser with the client, if you prefer to do it that way, or with FCWS. I prefer the client. It's way more like maintaining a regular website out in the world. So check out our website. Please let me know if you see anything funky about it. As I say, we just went live with it, and I will be adding content to it as time goes on. So let's see if we've got any new questions. We've got a few minutes left, so I'm more than happy to answer any questions out in public here. There are some new ones. Oh, there are some new ones. You have to scroll, Greg. Hello. So can the blog be disabled and removed? You mean the blog in the profile? I'm not sure Nate's question. The blog in the profile, that's a good question. I think it can be disabled, but I'm not sure of that, Nate. Let me check into that and get back to you. Okay, we refer to the right side of the screen as dead space. Okay, sorry you feel that way. There's not too much we can do about that, although it's all CSS, so it's conceivable that we can hack that, Nate. But I'm not going to try it anytime soon. So, but I'll try to once again to make the folks up there hear your request that whole right-hand side thing be an option. I understand that, and I don't have a lot of pull either, but I'll see what I can do. Can other FirstClass calendars, groups, resources, etc., be pushed to Google Calendars as well? That's a great question, Charles. And the answer is, based on the release notes for 16.1, I think so, but I haven't tried it yet. So let me try that out, because it certainly makes a lot of sense. Let me try that out and see whether I could do it. I was actually surprised to find out that we could push things up from even a personal calendar. It's something that they snuck into EIS 16.1 that I didn't expect. So I don't know how thoroughly functional it's going to be, but I will check that out for you. iCloud calendars, I believe that the answer is yes, Sue. But again, I just started working with this the other day. All of this stuff required a 16.1 server, and they just released the beta for that on Friday, and I haven't had a lot of time with it, but I believe the release notes say iCloud calendars too. So I'll check that out and let you know. Nate's question, will either the Mac Cal or Google Cal work with the FC desk? That I don't think so, Nate. I haven't tried it out too hard yet, but my recollection is that it won't work with the desktop client. We can still synchronize with the desktop client. But wait a minute. Let me back up. Google Calendar, I don't know. The Mac Calendar, yes, stuff does go back and forth from the Mac Calendar into the FirstClass client calendar. Google, I haven't tested yet, but I'll give that a shot. The Google goes through EIS, which talks with FCWS. So I'm going to say probably not. But the Mac Calendar Sync uses CalDAV, so that does talk to the FirstClass client. Okay, well, I haven't been paying attention. So sorry, folks, that didn't occur to me to scroll the question calendar. So I'll catch up here. So I apologize, Nate. I did see that. I can see that Jamie's saying that you're still there, still there. You know, I'm not. You know, I'm kind of new to all this technology stuff. I've only been doing it for 35 years now, so I'm a little slow on the uptake apparently. So I think I've already answered that question, Charles, which is that I think so, but I haven't tried it yet. And Ron says we gave up on FC Calendar years ago. I think you might want to give it a new look, Ron. It's the latest versions of the FirstClass calendar, in my opinion, are actually really good, and the interoperability makes them even better, and the ability to do things like assign tasks to people and so on make it even better. So give it another look. I'm not saying that. Take my word for it, and tomorrow go out and roll it out to everybody else in your organization, Ron. But I would give it another look. Okay, so there we go. So Laura, thanks, Laura. You're good. I didn't see your second question, Barbara, because I wasn't paying attention. Millard's test, yeah, I see that. Millard, scroll thing. Client does not sync with the client. The client, I don't understand this question, Samuel. The client does not sync with the client calendar. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but if you want to take a second and clarify that some more, or send me, Samuel, if you want to send me an email with more details about what you're talking about, I'll take a look at that. Google Calendar can sync with web services calendar, but does not sync with the client calendar. Oh, I see what you mean. So the reason for that is that the Google Calendar, the current iteration of the Google Calendar that I have access to and know about, uses EIS, the External Integration Service, that works with FCWS. It doesn't work directly with the server. So the Google is being handled by that. And there may be a way to tell it to go talk to the client also, but I don't know what that is. So I apologize for that. I don't even know whether it does or not, but if it does, I don't know how. So I will research that one because that clearly is of interest to everybody. Does the calendar work with iCloud? Yep, I think so, Sue. I apologize again for me not seeing these questions right away. Okay, so I answered that one for you guys. I apologize. You guys are actually great at asking questions. I'm just not great at seeing them. Any update on FCAS apps for web and mobile devices? I think that because the FCWS, and this isn't I think, Charles, I think that because FCWS knows about forms now, the FCAS may work, but that's just a guess. And again, I haven't tried it, but I'll give that a shot this week and I'll let you know. Is a 16.1 Go app available now? It's still in beta. The FCWS app is available against our FirstClass, the Canon server, but the 16.1 Go is not available to the public yet. I have it, and it's a good thing that it's not available to the public yet. It's still in a beta, and some things don't work. Well, I should have read the disregard question first. Okay. And thank you from Carlton. You're welcome, Carlton. Let's see, what time is it? It's a little after 2. I'm willing to stick around. I don't have anything serious to do, so I'm willing to stick around if you want to ask more questions or you want to see something else. But for those of you who are time sensitive, thanks for coming and hanging out with us for an hour. Please feel free to send me an email with your comments on how this went. I am recording it, I think. So once the recording is done, I'll post it up on our website and you can share that with folks. And I thank you all for attending. I'll stick around for another few minutes to see whether there are more questions. And now that I know about the scrolling, I should do a better job at that. And again, thank you for your attendance and thank you for sticking with FirstClass. It continues to get better and I hope that your organizations continue to feel that way. I can see that some people are going away, but some people are still here. So I'll stick around until it says nobody's left, in case anybody wants to ask additional questions. Welcome, Sue. So I see that Sue said thank you. Hung Ho signing off. Jamie, thank you. I think it says 3 people still left in here. Who is it? We got Jamie is still here and Sam is still here. Sam, you may be the last one in. If you have another question, I'd be happy to unmute you and try to answer it. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Greg. Can you hear me?
I can.
Sorry, I had to take my daughter to the clinic, and I just got home, and I missed the whole thing. So I'm wondering if, by any chance, you recorded it and are going to make it available.
Yes, I did record it. I'm just checking, and it says it's recording, so I assume that it's still recording. I'm going to, as soon as we get done here, I'm going to tell it to stop recording. It'll process, and sometime within the next hour or so, it'll be done processing, and I'll upload that to our website.
Oh, that's true. And then you'll send a notice out, or?
I'll send a notice out to everybody that it's been recorded and that it's uploaded. I may wait until I'm doing this again tomorrow afternoon from 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern time. So, you know, if you got a minute, you want to sit in live so you can actually ask your questions, that works. And I think sometimes I look to see which recording is better and I put one up, but it's easy enough. I'll probably just put both up because the questions will be different.
Oh, maybe I can jump in tomorrow, actually. Do I need another invite for that?
I think that if you go back to your original invite, the link there takes you to a place where you could sign up for either.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm going to try to jump in tomorrow then, between 3 and 4. Okay, I'll sign up.
Good. I look forward to seeing you then. And I am going to post them, so you'll have them for future reference, or if you want to share it with somebody, that'll be. I'm not going to password protect them or anything. I'll just post them up there and show you the link.
Okay, great.
Good.
Thanks, Greg.
Okay. Well, good chatting with you, Sam.
Okay, take care. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.